Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Um, my name is Ahmad Amir bin Ahmad Syairil and my partner is Nur Arsha binti Muhammad Wahi. Today I'm going to talk about topic 13, which is plant evolution and diversity. Okay, first let's talk about plants. Plants is actually a multicellular photosynthetic eukaryotes whose evolution is marked by adaptations to a land existence. Plants is actually increasingly adapted to live on land, and the adaptations of the plants is called evolutions. Okay. Okay. Next, plants is actually classified using their molecular and morphological information. As we can see in the table, we describe plants as vascular and non-vascular. As we can see, vascular is seedless and seed, and non-vascular is bryophytes. For your information, phylogenetic information suggests that modern plant groups arose in a particular sequence. As you can see here at the bryophytes, liverworts diverge first, and then mosses diverge, but hornworts is actually seem to be closely related to vascular plants. Next, the vascular plants. They are actually distinguished by tissues and by tissues that conduct food and structural and provide structural support. um, and lysophytes is actually related to all the modern plants. Okay, now let's talk about the ancestry of plants. The evolutionary history of plants begins in the water. Land plant evolved from a form of freshwater green algae in a million years ago. Green algae is actually not a plant, but like plants, they contain chlorophyll, A and B, and various accessory pigments. They also store excess carbohydrates as starch, have cellulose in their cell wall, but they are not a plant. As we can see on the right side of the slide, you can see the embryo of the green algae and the embryo of the capsella. Okay, and then we will look at the difference between algae and terrestrial plants. Um, the difference is plants not only protect the zygote but also protect and nourish the resulting embryo. Uh, However, zygote only protect the zygote. Algae only protect the zygote. Sorry. Okay, now let's talk about adaptations of plant to land. Unlike algae, plants living on land have a limited amount of water. Um, as an adaptation to living on land, most plants are protected from desiccations, which is drying out by a waxy covering called a cuticle. Um, the cuticle uh, will cover all exposed surfaces and is relatively impermeable. But the problem is that the limits gas exchange for photosynthesis and cellular respiration. The solution is tiny openings found mainly on underside of leaves called stomata. Uh, on the underside of leaves. This allows for gas exchange and water vapor to escape. As we can see on the right side of the slide, it describes how stomata can be closed at time to limit water loss. Here. Okay. Okay, now let's see another point of adaptations of plant to land. Okay, the next point is presence or absence of trachea. Moving water within plants is a challenge that increases with plant size. The different members of the land plants can be distinguished based on the presence of this trachea. So the function of this trachea is actually to resist gravity and facilitate the upward transport of water and minerals. Okay, the next point is composed of three dimensional tissues. Compared to green algae, the bodies of land plants are mostly composed in this dimensional. A tissue is an association of many cells of the same type that can lead to specialized structures, such as organs. Okay, tissues provide land plants with an increased ability to avoid water loss at their surfaces. Um, this is because bodies composed of tissues have a lower surface area to volume ratio, okay, than the branch filaments. Okay, another adaptation is plants living on land are exposed to higher intensities of ultraviolet light, which can increase the chance of mutations. Exposure to ultraviolet lights, it can increase the chance of mutation. But having a diploid genome can hide the effect of a single deleterious allele. All terrestrial plants have both a haploid and a diploid generation, and the evolutionary shift toward a more dominant diploid generation allows for greater genetic variability in land.
Okay, next, alternation of generations. For the life cycle of humans or other animals, the diploid is in multicellular and the haploid is composed by single cell gamete. Same goes to plant. They have both stage, haploid and diploid. However, the significant difference is both stage um, contains multicellular structure. Therefore, all plants is heavy and alternation of generations, which means plant has two alternating forms in the course of its life cycle. So there are two types of multicellular bodies, which are diploid and haploid. Diploid is spore producing sporophyte generation, while the haploid gamete producing gametophyte generation. Next, as we see on the diagram, a multicellular individual will produce spores by meiosis. Then the spores will undergo mitosis and become new multicellular gametophyte. And then a gametophyte is multicellular individual that will produce gametes. Gametes fuse in fertilization to form uh, the zygote. The zygote is haploid cell, and it will be it will become spore forming sporophyte. Okay, the last one is dominant generation. Land plants differ as to which generation is dominant, that is more conspicuous. The plants such as mosses, the gametophyte is dominant, while fern, pine trees, and peach trees, the sporophyte is dominant. The vascular system evolved only in sporophyte. Therefore, the shift to sporophyte dominant is adaptation to life on land. As we see on the diagram, the sporophyte gains in dominance. The gametophyte becomes macroscopic and becomes dependent on the sporophyte. Okay, that's all from Ancestry and Features of Land Plants from Group 1. Thank you.